back to Beagle Eye Visions. We're going to be going through episode number 48, Movies to Break Down, and this is running it over, it's an hour and 36 minutes. So, it's going to have to be a two-parter, but that's okay. Preston Garvey, I'm so sorry this happened. You should have stayed. All you had to do was stay at the settlement. He might still be there. Somebody said on the internet said this might be the imposter. So who knows? Anyways, episode number 48 of the CubbyWhole podcast, Movies to Break Down. And this is with Brandon Martin. I'm very excited about this one. I know this episode is good. I'm excited to hear what Brandon Martin has to say on this one because I haven't seen him in a very long time. And it makes me kind of sad, and I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it to Skatopia this year, so I won't be able to see him, and it sucks. It makes me sad. I miss you, Brandon Martin. I hope if you hear this, I miss you, brother. Last year when I went to Bull Bash at Skatopia, I did an interview with Brandon Martin. It was an amazing interview. 10 out of 10. We did it live at Skatopia. So go back on Beagle Eye Vision. Again, there's no commercials on this channel. That is amazing. Amazon Prime even has commercials now. Beagle Eye Visions doesn't. So use Beagle Eye Visions for your entertainment. And this is going to be a very good episode. So, oh, and also, I'm doing a mission. What is it? It's Vault-Tec Distress Signal mission. Best of 3. So this is the mission we're going to be doing on today's episode. Yeah, stick around. We're about to get some really good knowledge. I'm a huge movie buff, so this is one of my favorite episodes, automatically.
And that's one of the things about religion that we have to remember when we're talking about that makes it such a hot topic issue is because we're talking about law. Who gets to be God? Who gets to be God's deputies? Who is the Most High? Who is the divine authority? It's all about the claim to the Most High. The only way that somebody can be higher than us is if we give away our power. Because there's nobody, we're all equal. But we're not equal in our knowledge, so ultimately I think it does have to be a hierarchy, but it has to be a cooperative hierarchy like a bee colony. It's about what our value system is, what we care about.
Hello, Hive Mind. Today is September 30th, 2021. I'm your host, Nate Cap, and we are joined back with co-host Brandon Martin. Welcome to the 48th CubbyWhole podcast, where important topics are unveiled, discussed, and tested. Our website is CubbyWhole.com. That's CubbyWhole.com. And you can also listen on Spotify, Apple, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and much more. Brandon, how you doing, buddy? Where have you been?
I'm doing what? Where have I been? Taking a little hiatus, and that has been very good for my well-being and my health.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm still alive. I'm still here, and it's very good to be back on the CubbyWhole podcast and to be, on here with you. And I'm really excited to get back to work with you.
Awesome, man. I'm really glad to hear that. And it's been a long time, and it's been crazy how long we haven't really shared the airways together. So I'm very excited for this. And today, Brandon and I are going to talk about allegorical movies, ones we are planning on breaking down here on the show in the near future. So we'll also talk about Brandon's new presentation later on in the show as well. And we will end this episode with a theory breakdown of the new Matrix 4 trilogy. So definitely stay tuned for that. Also, just a short recap of the last episode, I broke down ways in which we can understand allegory by knowing metaphorical vehicles and tenors, how to see, literally and symbolically or allegorically. I also began to break down the symbolism of the first degree trestle board, aka the entered apprentice. And I ended that show at the foot of the ladder known as Jacob's Ladder. So make sure to catch the next shows where I'll be bringing more knowledge regarding those symbols, because we have to understand.
And while he's talking, sorry to interrupt you, Nate, but while he's talking, Jacob's Ladder with Tim Robbins. I always get Tim Robbins and Jeff Bridges mixed up for some reason. I don't know why. I think it has Tim Robbins in it. Jacob's Ladder from like the late night. I'm not even gonna say a year, but the movie Jacob's Ladder. Hey, Press is still alive, everybody! Yeah.
Man, you're unstoppable.
Thank you, bro. He's still alive. All right, so the movie Jacob's Ladder is an amazing allegory. Amazing.
And esoteric Freemasonry. So when understood, when Freemasonry is understood, we can be able to also see the deeper underlying messages in stories or movies, important ones, that is. It's about being able to see the hidden meaning, and being able to see this way it can really help us see the hidden realm of reality, including the reality that is, purposely hidden from us. A hidden reality veiled in basic trivial storytelling or media or history. So we have to take this type of sacred science serious if we wish to understand ourselves at a deep level. So definitely don't miss out on these shows regarding the science of allegory and Freemasonry, because it is essential to understanding morality and esotericism. Okay, so before we get into allegorical movies, we haven't heard from Brandon regarding the Seed for Growth Conference, which happened this past May. So it was a really, really awesome historical conference. And Brandon, I know you've wanted to get on here and talk about it for a while. So if you want, go ahead and give us a breakdown of those two awesome jam-packed May days.
Yeah, I'd be glad to give my opinion on how the conference turned out. The conference was pretty much, it was hell to get the conference going because of the pandemic that was going on, and everything just kept hitting barriers, one barrier after another, for actually having it in person because of all the restrictions and the draconian lockdowns that were going on. And then they started to put more regulations in place, like trying to make everybody wear masks and limiting the ability to have full capacity of seats for the audience, cutting it in half, and they still wanted me to pay full price. So, it was really hellish to actually get the conference off the ground, and it took a few years to get it moving. So it was really, really nice to actually have it come through and be successful. Even though it was only online, I still feel that it was one of the best conferences that I've ever seen. I don't think there's ever been that kind of work all put together in one place at one time, like that quality of work. Everybody built off of each other. Everybody had something to bring to the table. It literally was like the round table,
Right.
They were all great minds. All the speakers were wonderful. They all brought great knowledge to the table. You don't have to agree with everything that everybody said, but it all added to the whole tapestry of the Seed Conference. And, for me personally, I started the Seed Conference on my own, free of charge, out of my home. And it was really the initiation of my path into the great work. I got inspired by the Free Your Mind Conference, and I really wanted to get people, especially Nate and Doug, involved with it and to see some of their work, because I knew they had great things to say. Really early on in our great work period, you could say. And it just turned out amazingly after, I started to do that. Each conference got better and better. The quality got better. I mean, the first conference was kind of hell too, because when we first did it, it was in spring, and we had this winter storm come out of nowhere, right? And it was freezing. It was so cold, and we were up in this barn, and we had to seal it all off. And everybody stuck through it, which was really awesome to see the amount of people that showed up. And all the people that just had to resolve to sit there in the freezing cold weather to listen to hours and hours of all this great knowledge and, occulted information. And it just shows that there are some people who are willing to, learn in the most horrible environments. I think a lot of people, they have this idea that you have to be super comfortable to learn. And yeah, that's great. That really does increase your ability to learn, as being in a conducive environment for that. But also sometimes, like, to show that you have the willpower to sit through something like that, to endure the hardship of environmental situations or conditions, to actually learn that. It just shows how much resolve you have. And I really, I think that is an amazing thing. So yeah, Seed 4 growth was just all around very successful. I mean, we had a few technical issues. I had some dilemmas with internet issues, which kind of was foreseen a little bit because I live out in a rural area. So I was very happy and thankful to have Nate, yourself, and Doug to take up the hosting part and take up the Q&A part. And that really did affect me emotionally, not being able to be there online with everybody. I really felt, bad about that because I wanted to be there. It was my conference. I'm the curator. I'm the founder of that. And so that hit me in my heart a little bit. But to see how good it was and how good it turned out, even though it was our first, online event, none of us have ever done anything like that. We had a great team supporting us from Autonomy, a great support team, great tech team. Mark Passio's helped getting it on the One Great Work Network site and on Twitch and things like that was amazing. So, and just all the speakers, like I said, all the speakers that had so much great information to bring to the table. All the presentations came out very, very good. So yeah, I think it was one of the best conferences I've ever seen. And I can say that with, somewhat of an experience of being through a lot of conferences.
I concur with that.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't think anybody could argue that. And, I can't wait to put on the next one. I mean, I already got the name for it. I already got the title, Seed 5 Bloom.
Awesome.
We're going to go into the next stage of, growth. So we're going to take it to bloom. Nice. And I'm not in any kind of preparation for that at this point, but I hope to get that moving by the beginning of the year and hopefully to see it within a couple months after I get it moving. So sometime next year, people should be definitely keeping their ears open and their eyes open for the next Seed event. And it's going to be even better because we're going to have, all the experience that we've had. So we learned a lot. We all got our feet wet with being able to live host. And yeah, I just think it was amazing. And I thank everybody for, all their effort for coming and participating, watching, and supporting us.
And, I know you've put together the other Seed conferences, 1, 2, and 3 prior to this one, but I knew going into this conference was going to be so much more because, the other conferences only had like a handful of people to present, and they were all really fantastic. But this was beyond anything else prior to the Seed conference or the Seed 4 conference. And what I want to know is, what was going through your mind right before this, like at the beginning of the day I think it was Friday, what was going through your mind right before you were about to, introduce the whole conference and, introduce the very first presenter?
Well, the main thing that was going through my mind was getting my presentation together.
Yep, I remember that.
Because I was a little bit late with organization and getting everything crammed together, and I think the organization of the event was pretty decent for our first online event, but it could have been better, and I definitely wasn't prepared with my presentation, which was a rush job, and I did the best I could in that time period, and it ended up being way longer than I expected it to be. So I was supposed to only have an hour and a half. That's what I had allocated to myself, and given to myself, and then it ended up being 3 hours long. And I was like, oh, well, guess we're just going to have to deal with that. And we learned to navigate the waters, because we did have one speaker drop out, which was Tony Palmentera. And so that did help with that. And then some people's presentations were a little bit longer. Some people's presentations were a little bit less than what they said it was going to be. So it all worked out in the end. But the other things that were going through my mind was just how excited I was to have brought together so many enlightened beings at that time period. And, I picked May specifically because of the dark ritualistic sacrifices that tend to go on during May, right? Like May Day being a dark occult ritual during the season of sacrifice. And, I picked that time period because I wanted to counteract that energy with something very positive and very hard hitting for people. And it was really nice. I the next day I went around to all my local friends' house in the local area, and they were all, still watching it, watching the reruns of it. So it was really awesome to see that they were still engaged in it, and to see so many people that I knew personally, being excited about that, because, that's always something that hits me hard, is not seeing enough of my personal circle engage in the work that I feel is very important and very crucial, right? Everybody's distracted. Everybody's locked in emotional mind control. They just want entertainment. But it's nice to see some of that support come around in the end. The other thing that I was thinking about was, just how to navigate any issues that would arise, right? So anything that I could think of in my head, I was just trying to prep myself. Like, oh, this could happen, this could happen. And I was trying to make sure that I had all my areas covered, which I think is very important that we do things like that. So I was taking a very pragmatic approach to it and just making sure, like, hey, if something happens on my end, who's going to take that up on the other side? And that's why I went ahead and hired, hired a team, we hired a team, me and you, Nate, to actually make sure that the presentations were going to be aired smoothly, so that there was no interruption. And I think that's the best way to do it, because if you're doing it from home, there's just so many issues that could happen, so many unforeseen events that could happen. And, the most prevalent event that could happen is government trying to censor you and government trying to shut you off, which happened to us during one of the presentations on Facebook. I think YouTube gave us a strike as well. I think it got shut off there for a moment, but we did get it back up after that presentation was done. So yeah, government's iron fist comes down and they want to censor and shut you up, right? And they don't want you to speak the truth. They don't want that to get out to a wide audience. So I think that's very important to know is just how to navigate those issues when they arise from a technical standpoint, and make sure that you have backup plans. Backups are the key. Not only back up your data, but whenever you're planning an event, things are going to go wrong, and you just got to continue to go through that. You have to push through those barriers, push through those issues, and make sure that you are you really have the resolve to make sure to get to the other side. That's something that martial arts and skateboarding taught me, which is, anytime that you happen to fall, you get back up and you try it again. I can't even tell you how many times, to go and learn a trick on a skateboard, I've fallen over and over and over hundreds of times just to get one trick, just to make one landing, and then the next thing you know, next week I can land that trick like every time, right? So a lot of people have that fear psychology and they get scared about failure. not realizing that failure is part of the journey. It's part of how you grow. It's part of how you learn. And there is no life without some modicum, experience of failure in your life. You have to go through that, and you have to endure that pain, and you have to have the psychology. You have to have the strong psychological state, the mentality that you can get back up and try it again. When I used to skate, I'd almost overexert myself doing that. Like my dad would have to stop me because I would just keep doing it to the point that I was like, I could barely even stand. My muscles were trembling, and my legs are shaking, and my whole body is just ready to collapse. Feels like I got hit by a train or something. And I still want to just keep trying and trying and trying. And sometimes you do just have to back off and, say, okay, I'm going to do it again the next day. And, after you do that, you eventually do land what you're trying to do. And I think that's how the Seed Conference kind of came about was, I learned from doing, we all did, learned from doing the first 3 events, which was, right out of my own home. And each time it got better. Each time the presentations got more clear. Each time the speakers expanded. Each time there was more guests. The technical issues tend to be minimalized. And it seemed like the universe helped us in that area too, because the environmental conditions tended to, be a lot better.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's a very good lesson to learn.
Yeah, I definitely was. I'm not a Johnny on the spot type of guy, and I definitely have a lot of fear in public speaking. But you not being able to be on there, and then Doug and I having to take over, really. Definitely, I was fearful, I'll admit, because I am, and that's my condition. But I did it, and I'm glad that I did it because I
apologize. I just gotta use the restroom real quick.
Got that experience, and I'm very thankful for that experience. And it's definitely teaching me to be more prepared and knowing that, hey, like you said, we're going to fail, and we just got to keep on getting up and trying again until we get better and better and better. And that's, one of the reasons I wanted to even start this CubbyWhole podcast, because I knew that I would get better at public speaking if I would, go through this type of information. I would even understand the information even better. So it has really helped me grow as a person and as a speaker. And also it really made me appreciate what you were doing. And, I'm really just so stoked for you for putting so much effort into generating such a solid conference. It was so inspiring, and I'm hoping it gets more people to step up and put more of these types of shows together, because it's really, really much needed. And if we're going to see a bigger and more positive changes, that's what we got to do. So really a great job, Brandon. I'm really proud of you as a brother, and as family, and as one of my greatest friends. So it's so cool what you did, and I'm really, really excited to see what you put together next, and I'm excited to be part of that again. So.
Well, thank you very much, Nate. It's an honor to be family member and friend to you as well, and to be part of this community. I think that's something that we all should think about, is to be very positive about being around people that have the same mindset, because if you're around rotted fruits, then you might rot yourself, obviously. So to have that many great minds, like I said, come together, and the Q&A was on point. I tried so hard to get into the Q&A. My video was working, but for some reason my mic wasn't working, and I could not figure it out. I get really irritated about it. But, I thought the Q&A was amazing. It was like a druid circle, just all kinds of very enlightened people, and a lot of people are young. It's very impressive to see how many younger individuals that were that are that far along the path. It's very positive. Now, I'm not trying to paint some romantic picture of the world. I'm not saying the world's awakened to that level, but there are a few people. I think we're worse off, honestly, in the world than we have been in the past 10 years. But I also have to give credit where it's due and understand that there are people who do know this knowledge and who are putting in the work, especially within the One Great Work community. So, yeah, I think that's a very positive thing.
Yeah, man. And also, if anyone didn't catch, anyone listening to this show right now, if you didn't catch the conference, you can go on the homepage of the CubbyWhole website, and you'll see all the presentations as you scroll down, and they're all there. So definitely check those out, and you will find so much vital information that is all about finding our sovereignty and ending slavery. So
yeah, I was actually going to say that a second ago, that people should, get on there and check out the presentations if they haven't caught it. And there will be something there for everybody, whatever level you're at, from absolute, basics, beginner, newbie, initiate, to the advanced student, all the way up to the most advanced student, I would say. So that's something I really did enjoy about the conference, is that we had a full spectrum of information, going from the foundational essence of the principles that we need to understand, all the way up to the more advanced psychology and ideologies that we need to really develop and to flush out, right? Deep history, deep occulted history, to deep occulted psychological aspects of ourselves. So yeah, I think that there was something in there for everybody, from one extreme to the other, and a little bit in between. So that was something I really enjoyed about the conference as well.
yeah, man, I'm really, really looking forward to what's going to come next. And, more than anything, I'm just really looking forward to more people waking up. And I guess I'm not really expecting that, so I guess I can't say I'm looking forward to it. But I'm really hoping that more people take this work serious and become more, because there's a lot of people out there that maybe are waking up to what's going on, and they really need to recognize that there are places that we can come together and actually work together to shed these bars that are built in our minds. And it really is going to take lots of care and heart and dedication and being tenacious to really make a big difference, a big positive difference that's going to help us, like I said earlier, become more sovereign and get closer to our true sovereignty. But what I really want to say is, people like, Mark, Passio, yourself, Brandon, Martin, and all the others who are putting together these conferences, there's very few. There's only, like a handful, maybe at the most, sadly, that I know of anyway. And there really needs to be more people stepping up and putting these types of events together. And, I'm also talking to myself, because I know that it is so important that each one of us puts in that time and effort. And, I can't do everything. I'm putting together this show to help these conferences. And, that's part of the reason. And, to get the word out there. But, we just got to give everything we got if we truly want to see things get better in this world. If we truly want to see freedom, if we really want to see more people knowledgeable about the things that truly matter, like natural law. And I'm really just trying my hardest to get this type of information out there and, let people know that, they're not alone. And, there's just so much that we gotta be grateful for, that people like yourself and others alike who have busted their ass to get this type of information out.
Well, it does take a lot of work. One thing is that, when you're trying to present or host, a podcast, or present a presentation, or do a video cast, whatever it might be, and then also try to organize a conference on top of that, that's a lot of work. And it tends to be, very frightening for a lot of people, because it is a lot to chew, and that's why you do need help. You do need other people to come in and help you in this. If it wasn't for the people that were helping me, I could never have got that together. I mean, I could have hosted one conference, on my own, but if I didn't have any speakers to come, it just would have been me, and it just, it wouldn't have been quite successful in the ways that they should be, right? Because we're trying to be tactical. We're trying to be strategic. We're trying to really get to a wider audience, because obviously we're in an information war, a consciousness war. And because of that, we have to take it seriously at some level. I mean, you don't even know how many times I've wanted to give up on doing some of this stuff, because I just don't see enough people, working. I don't see enough people actually doing the work. And I always come back to the same answer within my own head. It's like, well, then if I stop, then I'm just one of those, people. And then there's less people doing that work. And then I would be mad at myself for doing that. And I wouldn't be a good person for doing that. Because if you know this stuff and you don't say anything or you don't do anything with it, then, you're a very bad person for being in that position, because you're harming people. You're harming the world by doing that, because there's just information out there, so much garbage that's being fed to our children, our family members, our friends, just our species in general, that is really corrupting everybody's belief systems, everybody's, programs that they have running in their mind. It's like a giant virus. That's the real virus, right? The real virus is corrupting people's ability to discern reality from illusion, to corrupt people into believing that there is legitimacy in man's law, that man can be the lawmaker. Anybody who thinks that man can be the lawmaker, even if they at some level know that government is corrupt. Like, I know people that know that government is corrupt, but still they believe that man can arbitrate laws, and it's like, you do realize that this is the root of the issue, is that you believe in man's authority, that you can supersede the laws of nature, or God's laws, however you want to put it. And this is what creates systems like government. I mean, government is just the effect, just the symptom of, our minds and what we're doing with our minds, right? So the causality always starts in the mind. And this is one of the major problems, is people actually believe that they can be the arbiters of what is right and wrong and what gets to be law. And until people get out of that mindset, then, we're not making any headway, and we're not going to change anything. We're not going to really change that much. I don't know how many people have come to me and they're like, well, this law is okay, that law is okay, blah, blah, blah. This is, this has helped me in some situation. And I'm just like, you still don't get it. You still don't get it. Like, everything that you use in the system legally justifies the system itself.
Yep.
Like, if I win a court case for a Second Amendment case or something like that, right? Yeah, that's great. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I am saying that holistically it is a bad thing, because it justifies the system of law.
Right.
It justifies that man can be the arbiters of law. And it, not really, it's not really justifying it, but it makes it seem like it's just. It makes it seem ostensibly like it is, a real thing. So that's the thing. Like, that's why I'm not for like battling these things in the courtroom or anything like that, because every win you have there just makes it seem to the average person that somehow government is still legitimate and it can be used positively, you know? And it can't. It cannot be. Holistically, yeah, you might get a little win here and there, but it's not going to change anything. Actually, it makes the problem worse. It makes it, in the long run, works against our overall, what we want done, what we want to see in the world, which is true freedom, right?
Right.
So it actually, is counterproductive to our whole goal of trying to get freedom, because all it does is it makes it seem like government is somehow legitimate and that it should stay in place. And as long as we change it to meet our, personal wants for the better, right, then it should stay in place. And this is absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely nonsensical, illogical, unreasonable. It's erroneous. It's dogmatic. It just doesn't stand. And, that grinds my gears every time I hear people talk about it like that,
Same.
minarchists, libertarians, even some anarchists that I know. And I'm like, yeah, not even.
Are they
I
really
can't
anarchists
consider them
then?
anarchists. What is it?
I said, can you really consider them an anarchist then?
No, not really.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the belief in man's authority is by far the most dangerous belief that anybody can have. And I completely agree with you. And it is the very reason that we're in such a hairy, nasty situation that we're in right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, think about it this way, Nate, right? Or the audience as well. Say you're in a abusive relationship, right? And you're a female and you have a very strong, dominant, abusive boyfriend, right? Or husband. And he beats you every Friday, or once a month or once a week, whatever it is, right? And he beats you. And he beats you to a bloody pulp, right? I mean, he beats you. Hell, he even locks you in a little cage in the house, pretty much. You can't go out, you can't see your friends, you can't use the phone, anything like that, right? Just absolutely vicious abuse. And then on the other days, he comes out and he's like, hey, let's go out to eat with our friends today. Let's go have a good time. Let's go see a movie. Let's do this. And he's very kind and very polite and very nice, Well, every time you continue to stay in that cycle, not only is it your fault that you're continually getting abused, at some level. That doesn't mean that it's just that he's doing whatever he's doing. It just means that you're choosing to stay in that relationship. And there's certain situations where it's really, really difficult to get out of those relationships. But my point is that, as long as you continue to do that, you start to reinforce the idea that somehow this person can be good. Somehow this person, even though he does all this horrible stuff, breaks my nose, breaks, my feet, my ankles, whatever it might be, right? Breaks my arm, breaks a cheekbone, right? Every time that you were like, oh, well, he did this really awesome thing on this day. He got me this for my birthday. Or the week after, he did this very special romantic thing for me on this day. Well, all you're doing is prolonging the inevitable of suffering, It's just more and more suffering. You're just perpetuating the experience of suffering because you're not willing to get up and get out of that. And then at some level, you start to identify with that abuse because that's an abuse victim cycle. And it's kind of like a Pavlovian conditioning, right? Where you actually start to enjoy it because at some level you're masochistic and you start to, maybe you're conditioned to be masochistic, right? By being in that abusive relationship, you start to expect it. And at some level, maybe you feel that you deserve to be abused at that level, right? Because I know all kinds of people that are in that situation. They're like, I think I deserve to be beat by my woman or my man. Well, I think a lot of people have that kind of same mentality about government. We deserve to be punished by government and by order followers. Like, they might not come right out and say it, you know? But I mean, what else can you say when you're in such a perpetual state of Stockholm syndrome, right? And you're so masochistic at such a collective level, you know? At some level, you are participating, condoning, and advocating for that. And then at some level, you think you deserve this stuff. You start to really believe, I went and talked to my friend for 3 hours this day, or I went out to lunch with them, and my boyfriend got mad at me, and he beat me bloody because of that. Well, I deserve that, right? I deserve that. And that's how they condition you. You know, that's how we condition animals a lot of times. And it's just horrible to see. It's just absolutely, deplorable. And it's no way to live. It's not healthy. It's not sane. It's not just. It's not ethical, And it's not going to get you any place besides the same thing that you're getting, which is more negativity, more abuse, more suffering. And for people who are supporting the system of slavery as a metaphor in place of the abusive boyfriend or girlfriend, well, we're going to get more slavery, at a collective level, because we refuse to say the lost word no, and then act upon that as well,
Right.
And that action has to come in many different ways. It just can't come from one way, because this is something I wanted to tell you, Nate, is that the war that we're in is a very sophisticated one, right? It's not like any other war we've ever experienced before in human history. A lot of it's the same, A lot of the techniques that they're using are the same, psychological warfare, that is. But the means for which they're getting these things done have advanced. Technology is at such a level that it's almost merging with humanity, where we're pretty much becoming transhumanistic in a dark way at a certain level, right? I mean, think about it. Everybody has their phones with them. They got their computers. I mean, what we're doing right now, we're using the internet. We're using this. And you can use these things for positive uses. And that's what we're trying to advocate for, is to use the tools that you have for positive uses, right? But on the other hand, that means the game of warfare, the game of war is more sophisticated because of these things. And if you don't know how your tools work, or you don't know how your enemy's tools work, then you are at a huge disadvantage. And that's why you need to learn tech skills. That's why first you got to start with the principles, right? You have to get all the principles in order when it comes to natural law. You got to get your psyche right. You got to face the shadow self. You got to do the internal work. And then you got to start learning how to deal with the external world and how to, do what you want to do with the knowledge that you have. And I mean, that's the big thing, is that we need the knowledge before we can go do that stuff.
Don't worry.
And I think people are just, this is what I like to say. A lot of them are golems and a lot of them are troglodytes, right? Just freaking troglodytes. That's the word for it,
There you go.
And it's really horrible to see that. But a lot of people don't have the tech skills to be able to do the work that we do. Hell, I didn't have the tech skills. I just put myself out there and just started doing it, and then I learned it.
Same.
Trial and error, I just kept working with these things. I mean, every time that we go to record a show, there's something that comes up,
Yep.
A minor tech issue, and you just got to deal with it on hand, just like the conference. So I think that's really important for people to get in their heads, is like you need to be able to navigate the world that you're living in, the system that you're living in. It's one thing to say, oh, I know these things are going on. It's another thing to be able to operate in those things and try to change it, And that doesn't mean go join up with the government and trying to change it from the inside. You got to change it from a fundamental level of principles and getting your philosophy straight.
Right.
And your actions from that, right? The way you behave, your behavior. So I think that's very important for people to know, because there's so many people I know that are like, well, I can never do the things that you do because, I don't know how to use a computer. And I'm like, it's 2021 and you don't know how to use a fucking computer, Like, seriously.
Yeah, it's the idea that whenever you say I can't, well, there you go. You've already been defeated.
Yep.
So and you haven't even started. So
Right.
I agree with your analogy of the husband or boyfriend beating the girl to a pulp. I'm not laughing because she got beat to a pulp, but
Right.
but the thing is yes, it's just like I see people being cheated on, and then and then they'll turn around and say, like, you got to do what government says, and we need government and all this stuff. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I know that the government lies all the time, and you have seen them firsthand lie to you. But you still keep coming back. But you didn't come back to your partner who cheated on you, right? Or your ex-partner. You didn't come back to them, did you? Well, then why are you coming back to government all the time? Well, that's because most people don't understand that they have mommy and daddy issues. They don't realize that they need mommy and they need daddy still. They haven't grown up to an adult yet, to where they can self-sustain, or to where they can, live without someone else thinking for them and doing things for them. It's a very, psychological war, a very large psychological war that we're in, and people just are in denial. They have the cognitive dissonance going on. So I completely agree with what you're saying, and yeah, it's crazy. Even people who start to wake up to what's going on, they'll pull a matrix cipher and go right back to sleep, and it's just like, man, I don't know how you can do that. I don't know how you can learn so much of this information, get the principles, and know the truth to a high degree, and then go right back to sleep. It's just it blows my mind that can even happen, but I guess it can, because I've witnessed it. But we're gonna switch gears now.
Well, hedonism is a hell of a drug.
Oh yeah, I would say so. I don't think I've ever really quite experienced that, but yeah, I think it is. I think maybe I've experienced it on very low degrees, but I quickly realized that I was becoming a degenerate and needed to grow up and become the adult that I'm supposed to be, become the change that I'm supposed to be. So anyway, we're gonna switch gears now, and I said Brandon and I were going to break down the Matrix, but on the last shows, but he said he's too good for that, so we're not gonna do that here. No, I'm kidding, but he decided that he was going to be making a presentation out of what he has so far, which is really cool, and I'm looking forward to it. So instead of breaking it down today on this show, we plan on having him come break it down with me in the future shows after he has given that presentation. So Brandon, what I want to know is what inspired you to go forward and make a presentation out of our show, or before our show comes out, of the Matrix trilogy?
Well,
Deciphered.
We were talking about doing allegories, right? And it's something that we both have been extremely excited to get into. With myself, I have been a very dedicated, symbolist, and a person who loves to dive into mythologies and folklore and, deep philosophies within storytelling, right? It's always been something since I was a kid that I loved. I just love getting deep into the characters and the story and how they develop, and whatever I can learn from that. And then learning what an allegory was very, much inspired me to start to look at it and relate it back to my own world. and what's going on in the current world and what I could learn from all these things, you know. So if it wasn't for like all the books I read as a kid or all the movies that I used to dedicate myself to watch over and over to find, you know, so-called Easter eggs, the occulted knowledge within them, the hidden meanings. It was very thrilling to get into that, you know. And this is leading up to why I, you know, chose to do the Matrix allegory. But you know, we were talking about, you know, what movies to do, and then I came up with the idea of doing the Matrix because, you know, we got the new Matrix coming out in December, and the Matrix was so revolutionary to my state of mind when I was younger, and to everybody that I know, right? Everybody got something from it. Maybe not exactly what I'll be bringing to the table, or what like you would bring to the table, or what Mark has talked about and others have talked about, but everybody definitely felt the impact of that movie. And I felt, you know, this is a perfect time, you know, to do a Matrix, you know, breakdown, an allegorical breakdown of the Matrix. And my original idea and our idea was to come on and just, you know, present, you know, a quality breakdown on the show. And then as I started to get my material together, you know, first I started to write an article about it. And then from that, first I started taking notes, and then it turned into an article. And then from there, I started making slides. And then when the slides started coming together, I started looking at them, and I was like, this is going to be kind of difficult to do on a podcast. I mean, it can be done. It's just going to be kind of difficult, and it's going to be very long. So the way that the slides came together, it just kind of grew into something else, and it grew into a presentation, just, you know, with the style that I tend to make things in. It wasn't really like just reference slides. It was more of a, you know, chronological, very strategic and well-built presentation. So I decided, you know, I'd rather go in the presentation format because I think the quality will be there, and it won't, you know, I want to make sure that if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability and make sure that it's something that's going to, you know, stand the test of time, you could say. And I know that Mark did a wonderful breakdown of the Matrix, you know, back at, I think at Free Your Mind 2 he did. I believe that was the one that he presented at Free Your Mind 2. And the quality of that video is just a little shoddy, right? Nothing wrong with the quality of the information. It's amazing. Slides are, you know, high resolution, but the video quality is just, it's not, you know, up to what we would consider to be what we want as our standard for today. So I felt, okay, well, I'll take that idea that he had laid out and I'll build upon that. You know, I'll add in all the things that I think are crucial, all the hidden points, and, you know, I'll try to, in a way, remaster that, but not literally remastering his video, but just kind of.
All right, I think that's a good spot to take a break. I'm kind of like lost right now. I don't know what to do. I can go hunt creatures, I guess, in the glowing sea, but I mean, I don't know. I'll head to Corvega. I'm gonna take a break. Squirt Dog's got to go use the restroom, and then Morris the kid's blowing me up. He probably wants to play some Apex. So we'll see what's going on with that, and we will be back. And thank you if you made it this far. And the Seed Conference was absolutely incredible. I attended it while it was live. It was so much fun. I will put the Seed Conference in the description of this video, and stick around. We will be back to wrap this episode up. Episode number 48, movies to break down. They haven't even named any movies to break down. It's kind of funny, but yeah, I'm picking on you guys. But what is there? Some rad roaches over there? All right. Anyways, we will be back. Stay tuned and stay golden. And thank you if you made it this far. You are an absolute legend.